Today we've come to Nourish to meet founder Melissa and understand how she's 3D printing vitamins to exact orders for each individual customer. I'm here with Melissa from Nourished, talking about the exciting journey of your product. So thank you very much for joining us today, having a quick chat about the product. Do you want to just quickly describe what the product is?
Sure, yeah. So Nourished, our first product to market, is the world's first and only authentically manufactured personalized gummy vitamin.
Wow. And so talk about, like, how would I go about, getting the product personalized to me?
Absolutely. So basically, you go onto our website and you engage with a clever algorithm, which is got a lovely user interface, which is a consultation questionnaire. And it asks you questions about your existing health, your lifestyle, your goals, and also any major complaints that you might have about existing health conditions. All that information pipes back into our algorithm, which has very intelligent logic and AI learning, which is constantly scanning a database of the hundreds of millions of different clinical data points around different research studies done with humans, the different ingredients we have, the uses that they've been able to prove beneficial effect for, and then dosages and so forth. And then that basically puts together all that information and produces a recommendation of 7 different nourishments from a list of 33 potential vitamins, minerals, superfoods, and actives, which are best suited to you.
Wow, okay. so I mean, with all kind of e-commerce businesses, and this one's very different products in the world of e-commerce, I think my question is, where did this get started? How did you come up with that idea?
Yeah, so I started doing 3D printing of food in 2015. I sold my first FMCG product in 2014, which was a traditionally made in a factory vegan gummy candy. That was called Goody Good Stuff. It grew to 40,000 stores in 3 years, and I sold it to a big PLC called Cloetta. After I finished my transition, I decided that I wanted to do something totally different, really and almost completely on the back of my frustration of working in traditional manufacturing. And so in a big factory, the way most products today are still made is humongous lines, massive order quantities of the same flavor. So for example, in my previous product, I had to make 100,000 bags of each flavor at any time for the factory to even turn the line on for me. And so with all of those limitations, big company or small, it's really difficult to create enough options to be able to please everyone. And that's even in a single market, never mind when you're trying to sell globally. There's different flavor palettes, there's different benefits that people are looking for, etc. And this really bothered me because I'm a highly empathetic entrepreneur. I think most entrepreneurs are, and the idea that I couldn't make enough varieties to please everyone all the time really bothered me.
How did you get into the printing technology?
Yeah, so that's why. So basically I thought about all these different ways to solve it. Like, what if I could create 100 different products? Well, that would not even be enough. What if I could create 1,000? Still not enough. What if I could create 100,000? Well, even if I could create 100,000, I couldn't merchandise them in a store.
Yeah.
I couldn't even put them in an Amazon warehouse.
How many products are there? How many?
Our product today,
yeah.
33 billion.
33 billion.
Yeah, so that would be pretty tough, even in an Amazon warehouse. So my brain's way of working around that problem was, okay, if we can't create enough products in the traditional way, what about if we could make the consumer the creator? And what if we could create a device that people could engage with either in a live location like a store or maybe online and go through a series of design processes around a bunch of different variables. So color, flavor being the obvious ones, but also what do you want the shape to be? Do you want to write words? Do you want to draw a picture? Do you want it to be your face, for example, which was the most popular product our previous company made. And that was my first 3D printer, which I developed in 6 months from scratch. And it got 3 patents, and then we launched it all over the world. But it was making custom candy. And it was successful. It is still successful, but it wasn't really hitting the mark on the true value out of the tech. And I knew it could do more. And I knew that we just hadn't found the perfect product market fit yet.
And that's what I was going to ask. So you've seen this technology, well, not the same, but that kind of personalization in, say, the trainer market. You can go onto Nike.com and you personalize your trainers and choose goes. But how did you know when you started this kind of idea that this was, that there was a market for it? How did you kind of prove that first step into the market?
Well, I knew that there was a market for what I was going to make initially because I've been a consumer of supplements for a very long time. And I used to carry around gross Ziploc bag full of vitamins with me when I'm on travel, which is super gross, but also really dangerous because they look very similar.
Yeah.
And so like once I accidentally took melatonin in the morning thinking that it was chromium and had a really rough day. But that's just one example. So I knew that people were taking vitamins, more than half the world, and more than half the Western world takes vitamins every day. I knew that people were finding the current market options either not fit for purpose or very inconvenient, right? Mm-hmm. And then I also knew that gummy was the fastest growing part of the segment. So non-pill formats in VMS is the fastest growing part of the segment globally by a country mile. And so I thought, well, if we have a 3D printer that has all these approvals and all this capability to print gummy, what if we could put additional functional elements into it? And what if we could increase the personalization element? And that's really where the first idea came from. But we had humongous challenges because 3D printers, even my previous 3D printer, which was at the time the fastest 3D printer ever, was still way too slow to be able to make a scalable production line work in a real world model. Mm-hmm. And so the new printer that we developed and the one that we use downstairs, I guess it's version 4 now, so it's not exactly the same, but it's the same principle, is like, it's a hybrid manufacturing technique using additive manufacturing for personalization, but extremely fast model. So when you see the printers going downstairs, they can make a month's supply of totally customized gummy vitamins for people in less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
And so that makes it as scalable as a mainstream production line, but it offers the ability to make a truly custom product for each person, which even Nike, who makes those trainers, which I love, which I actually have, it took them 3 weeks to give them to me. So they cannot do it fast. You can have it personalized most of the time, but you can't have it quickly. And so we wanted to be able to do fast, high quality, and quick.
And when you first started, was your version 1 of the printer. Did you get funding to start it? Were you doing this kind of in a garage? How did it start? How was the first kind of year of trading?
Yeah, so in the very beginning, we had the previous business. And so we did a lot of tests in the previous company to make sure that we were, making sure we were watching before we leapt. And luckily, I have tons of experience, so does my CTO. And we were able to do a lot of those initial tests internally to get proof of concept before we really took the leap and changed the company. We started a totally new company, transferred IP over that we needed for the new concept, and then really started in May of 2019. Then it took me about 3 or 4 months to raise a seed round. That seed round money we used to build this factory and the factory across the road to allow us to build up our capability to be able to launch to market. And then we launched Nourished into the market in 2020.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you said now, you started with, was it 3 employees or something? You now through 100.
Almost 100. We will be at 100 by the end of next month, yeah.
So what's been the biggest challenges in scaling that across? That's only been in a couple of years as well, isn't it?
It's like 18 months,
yeah. So what's been the biggest challenge in scaling that many people?
I mean, I don't think you can do that kind of scale gracefully.
Yeah.
And I think if you try, that makes it really a challenge because it's really unenjoyable. Like, if you're trying to set yourself an unrealistic target, you're just setting yourself up for failure, and you don't have very much fun doing that. So I try not to give my team false expectation, and I also don't do it for myself, but we do push ourselves quite hard. So what we did originally was we brought in people that we knew we needed for a beta test. So when you launch to market, you can't hire 100 people on day one. They would have nothing to do. Also, that would be financially irresponsible. You can't buy, tons and tons of packaging. You don't know whether you're going to need that. You try and limit your risk wherever you can. But then after a certain point, and I think this really came after March, when COVID hit, we realized that the product was not a blip, that it was going extremely well, that it was growing rapidly, and that it was profitable. And then we really started building a humongously aggressive plan on how we were going to scale that up. And we have completed both our first year of trading, and we are on target to complete our second year of trading on forecast. both from a budgetary cost point of view, but also from a sales target.
You mentioned about not wanting to commit to a load of packaging because you don't know if you're going to need it. But how is it? Has it changed? Has the product evolved a lot? I mean, you said you're on version 4 of the printer now, but how's the product changed in that 18-month period?
So we make our own packaging now.
Yeah.
So we can do whatever we want. So we customize the packaging for every person. So before, where we were having kind of halfway non-customized packaging and then adding to it, we now make all of our packaging solutions, all of our recommendation letters, all of our belly bands, all of our anything that can be customized. We really do that ourselves now. And so that's allowed us to be really free, but it's also allowed us to create a bigger value add for the customer because everything is totally personal to them. And then the product itself, when we launched, we had 28 options. We now have 33. We also have the ability now for you to choose your own flavor. There's 15 different flavors. So on top of all those functional ingredients that you can choose from, you can actually have a different flavor every single month if you want. We're adding to that all the time. We've also added Nourish Kids, which is a totally new kids range. And by the end of this year, we'll have Nourish Protein, which will be the world's first personalized protein bar.
And as far as the product was, it's very different being printed. And has that caused has there been any reception? People going, well, I'm not quite sure because it's a strange idea having food printed. It's quite novel.
Yeah, I think people are kind of, they don't really mind. I don't think people make a decision to buy our product because it's 3D printed. Yeah. It's not a selling point. It's the way that we make it. The technology is the empowerment tool that makes the final product possible. It's not a benefit of the product. It's not like, buy this because it's 3D printed. There are some enthusiasts that will buy it just because it's 3D printed. Me being one, I love 3D printing. But in the end, the 3D printing element is not leading the market message. Of course, people ask us all the time, how in the world are you doing that? Using proprietary 3D printing technology, but that's not the benefit.
How has that marketing message evolved, or has it evolved over that 18-month period, kind of with the technology and the products and the benefits?
Yeah, the marketing message does evolve over time. In the very beginning, you really have to do a lot more storytelling, and as awareness goes up, more and more people know who you are, and so you don't have to explain as much in the beginning of every single marketing activity, but explaining what the product is. We did loads of explainer videos. We had loads of testimonials. We used a lot of PR in the beginning. We still use PR and we still use testimonials, but we use them in a different way now, more around reinforcement of the benefits of the product that people feel. And in America, the messages are totally different. So in America, personalized vitamins have been huge for a really long time, but there's never been a personalized gummy vitamin because nobody can do it. What is available right now in America is little sachets full of pre-made pills that they put into a sachet for you. So they're not making anything, they're just repacking it and making it more convenient. Whereas we're the first ones to do personalized gummy, and gummy is the number one selling format for vitamins in America. So our message there is so easy. It's personalized gummy vitamins.
It's interesting that a lot of companies speak to, gone to the US from the UK, and they've gone, oh, that's great. We just sell what we've got in the UK to Americans, and obviously it's a very different sales pitch. The way people buy in America is just very different.
Yeah,
so
they're very enthusiastic.
You've changed, your pitch considerably, to do the different marketing.
I mean, I'm American, so I'm lucky that I understand both.
Yeah.
So when we developed this product, I knew that the US market would be the bigger market in the long run. It's really easy to figure that out from data, from looking at market size, in general, but also just the Americans' enthusiasm for health is much higher. Also, the amount they're willing to spend on their health on a monthly basis is much higher than in the United Kingdom. So I knew if we could fight the hardest fight first and win, that it would be a lovely experience to go forward into the US, and it is proven to be that way. The US market, we have cheaper cap rates, which is an online metric for how much does it cost you to get a new customer, than we do in the UK. That's very rare. Most people say the US is 3 times higher than the UK. So that just shows that we made the right decision. Also, the UK market is, I've launched 3 products in the UK first and then taken them to America. And it really does work very well to use the UK as an incubator. If you make a mistake in England, they're very forgiving. And they're and it's okay. You can get away with it. You can learn. You can make sure that they understand they're part of a beta. and they're okay with it. Whereas if you make a mistake in America of a large scale, it is very difficult to come back.
So you'd actually recommend companies if they're looking for a new product launch it in the UK.
Yeah, and they are similar people, and they're similar buyers. They like similar things. They also like each other. So Americans like products that are from England and vice versa. Yeah. And so you don't have any of this weird stuff like, where is that made, blah, blah, blah. There's a lovely, whatever's happening on a geopolitical scale aside, the people in America really like England, and English people like the American market. And so you don't find you get any of those barriers. You definitely need to be careful about your verbiage. You need to get rid of the use in the words, right? Americans don't want to read words that they think nobody translated for America. Yeah. But at the same time, in general, I would say it's like 10% different. It's not 110, right? You don't have to do a full loop. And so you can take a lot of learnings from here and then launch it there. Also, the UK is a more manageable market size. It's 1/5 of the size of the United States. Yeah, so you can really pace yourself, and then we nailed this production, we know how to scale it up, okay, go to America. Because if you do it too early, you can really make a mistake.
And obviously your business has been hugely successful, loads of accolades and awards, I mean, it's been a really roaring success story through. But one of the things I always like to ask people is, what's been the biggest challenge? Because people look at entrepreneurs and see all the success, and we hear a lot about what goes well. What's been the kind of biggest challenge in the last 18 months?
Raising money is a time-sucking nightmare.
Would you recommend if people could run a business without raising money? Which way?
You couldn't. I can't imagine how you could unless you're independently wealthy. In order to compete on a global scale and grow something to the magnitude of what we have built here today and what we are building for the next stage, I'm not that independently wealthy, unfortunately. It takes a significant amount of money, but more importantly, the people we have brought on. When I say it's a time-sucking nightmare, I don't mean that I don't feel good about the result I got, because I do. I feel very good about it. When we raised our Series A, we brought incredibly strategically beneficial investors to the table who now come to my board meetings, who are now on the other end of a phone for me if I need something. If we come up to a supply chain sourcing issue or a shipping issue or a marketing issue for the United States, I have extremely high-level people on the other end of the phone that are invested in our success and will give me time and will offer me advice, also will open doors for us, and that is more valuable than the money.
So if there's other companies out there that have kind of got their proof of concept, they're looking to scale and they're looking for that investment, what advice would you give them about when to look and where to look for those kind of investors?
It depends on what their ambitions are. Like I do mentorship, and some people have a business that, they want to bring it to like a £1 to £2 million turnover. Don't go looking for VC money, because they're not interested. Yeah. You could probably get grant money, or you could get friends and family money, or you could maybe even remortgage your house for something of that size. If you have a global ambition and you're talking about a 5-year plan that sees you in the tens to hundreds of millions, that's when you really will be looking at VC money. So I think you want to do it in stages no matter what, but your seed round, you can just have an idea at that stage. And I would say that's the hardest one, because unless you have a track record as an entrepreneur that you can fall back on.
Someone.
Yeah, and which I'm very lucky that I do, because I've created 4 companies and sold them all. So I was like, I need you to trust me because this. Yeah. And we already have a proof of concept of the tech, and we can prove the market opportunity, and you can see from my history I have a ability to execute, etc. But that was harder than the Series A, where we had not a full year, but almost a full year of trading under our belt, and we could say, look, this is what I said I was going to do. I raised the money. I did exactly what I said I was going to do. This was the result, and now I need more money to make it bigger. And it was much easier for people to put that together, right?
Yeah.
You really have to beg people to just believe in you at the seed round.
So
it's a big ask. Yeah.
So now you're 100 staff, 3 factories now. What's kind of the next 18 months going forward?
Yeah, so protein is a humongous deal. So we're going to launch that product by the end of the year in a beta, and then a full launch in the new year. And that will be the first ever personalized protein bar in the world. I'm so excited for that.
And are you launching that in the UK again first?
Yes, yeah. And then the new factory allows us to scale up by 20 times. So it's going to be bigger than both of these existing factories, again, times 3.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a humongous leap forward, but we made a decision as a management team that we need to future-proof our next move. And I don't want to be moving it at the moment, the business doubles almost every quarter. Okay, so like if I planned only 2 or 4 times in advance, we're already now looking for another place after a year.
And how long does it take to get the new plant set up?
That should be ready by the end of the year.
So you're like this
we're starting it right now, and it'll be ready by the end of the year.
So it's kind of 6 months or something from the point of decision to having it running.
We're not the slow part. We have to get access to the building, legal agreements, and everything. That is actually the slowest part. Once that we get the keys, we can be up and running in like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So that part we can handle, but it's more the...
But guessing the demand, what the business is going to be in a year's time to know what you're going to need to build.
Forecasting is super important, and it's really difficult, and a lot of young entrepreneurs get it wrong. And so I would highly encourage people to get help and advice on it.
My last question is going to be, what one piece of advice would you give to people who are getting that scale-up journey like yourself? I
think when you go to investors especially, you will get grilled on your forecast.
Mm-hmm.
And so while you should be hopeful and optimistic in your forecasting, you should not be unrealistic, because you will get grilled and you'll lose people who think that you don't know how to forecast your company. So it's more of an art than a science, in my opinion, of where you want to push that. But I think you need to use as many possible existing data points as you can find, whether it be your existing traction, whether it be general market data, whether it be a case study on another similar company. You've got to be able to prove why you expect that to happen. And you have to be ready for hard questions like, well, what would stop that from happening? What would be the challenges that would get in your way that you would not be able to overcome without more money or blah, blah, blah. So those are the things I would recommend. But forecasting in general, when you are live with investors in your table, the best advice I can give to you is under promise and over deliver no matter what. Really, it is such a more enjoyable experience.
Well, thanks very much, Melissa. We're going to go and try some of the products and see how it's made next. But thank you for joining us. And some great advice there for budding entrepreneurs and people who've got businesses they're looking to take. And again, congratulations on the scale you're reaching and the growth you're seeing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, stay in touch.